Welcome back, Sims Complete. I'm your host, Matt Sims. This is the Sims Complete podcast on the Believe Sports Network, brought to you by FanDuel. And let's get to it, man. I am recording late at night, later than usual. So appreciate the team, right, for their patience with me because, yeah, we're doing this late in the evening for this edition of Sims Complete podcast. But that won't change the energy or the enthusiasm that we always bring to the show. So let's get to it, man. This is, of course, that time of the year where I just feel like, man, there is just so many things that are going on, so many unbelievable storylines. And of course, it revolves around and just our initial discussions of what we want to focus on here at Sims Complete because, hey, we know our audience, right? Our audience is being New Jersey and New York focused fan base, a lot of Jets, a lot of Giants fans, right? Pay attention to the show. And let's get to it. I think something that's really interesting too that Lindsay of the Believe Sports Network, our producer of the show, brought up to me and said like, hey, this would be a great discussion for us to have is really just the early stages of camp and what we're seeing from a Harbaugh-led football team for the New York Giants. What does that mean for the team in general? What does that mean for Jaxson Dart? We'll get to that in a moment. And I think early on what we've seen is just that the Harbaugh effect on Giants Nation, on the fan base, despite it being in Greenbrier, down there in West Virginia, still the energy, the enthusiasm of what I see and what I capture from the media and from the fans there, pretty special, right? The fact that there is clearly an excitement and a buzz back into the New York Giants because of this man's presence being the head coach. And I think it's phenomenal. And when I see videos of Coach Harbaugh doing his push-ups in the drills, right? Going through the warm-up and all that, like it excites me. It really does. And I think there's clearly just a gentleman, right, that I see in Coach Harbaugh that is really genuinely excited. Definitely could see maybe a little bit nervous or anxious, right? Or just eager to get it going. And I just love I just love seeing the kid in an adult, right? I love seeing the kid in a coach and a leader. And that's really what I see. Like I see just, yeah, he's a grown man with pants and a collared shirt on and like the Giants gear and all that. But it's just like, I see a kid in the candy store just so excited to be a part of this. And now with that comes the experience of a tough coach, a coach that demands and challenges his football players to do more, right? To ask more of them, to ask more of themselves. And that's something that I think that's been pretty apparent too. So that was really cool, I think, by Lindsay just sharing with me some of the things that have been circulating, right, around camp here early on. And one of them really was just the discussion of Jaxson Dart. So here we are in training camp early on in this process. And John Harbaugh, hey, is challenging his young quarterback to become more of a professional. And I think this is something that my father and I were extremely excited about when we knew that Harbaugh was getting the job, right? And the future of this football team is that's exactly what Jaxson Dart needs at the position. He needs someone that really is going to hold him accountable. And not only just with his play on the field, we'll get to that detail in a moment too, but more so just like the accountability of like how he carries himself, how he presents himself to the media, how he presents himself to the fan base. And it's not like Harbaugh is going to be changing the way that Jaxson Dart goes about, or he's trying to, basically take away, right, his shine, right, his presence, his aura, as people have described, right, about Jaxson Dart. No, he's teaching this young man how to channel it. And the reason where this discussion comes from was from an article that was written today, during New York's Giants training camp. Was an interesting place to be, right? As the presence felt not holding back on key players like Jaxson Dart. And I think that's the biggest thing, that we saw as well in the past was that, some players kind of got the benefit of the doubt, other players, and Harbaugh is just clearly not that type of person. And I think, too, Harbaugh's experience with being with Lamar early on in his career some of the things and the demands of the position, a young player being introduced to that position, being the voice and the face of a franchise and the leadership of that franchise. Definitely feel like Coach Harbaugh has learned tremendous lessons from just witnessing that with Lamar Jackson. Two totally different players, two totally different circumstances, but still like lessons to be learned about how to manage, how to channel, right? Just a young football player that is so excited, so eager to be competitive, to prove himself, and to be successful. And this is like a great example of this. So Jaxson Dart scrambles, gets a touchdown. As he crosses the line, right, he gets flagged, or excuse me, after he scores the touchdown, he throws the football, right, at the helmet of cornerback Greg Newsome. And with that, Newsome himself fires back. It causes a scuffle. And these are things that I think sometimes media, like, they have a lot of fun with. Of course, it gives them an opportunity to create another ulterior motive and narrative to what's happening. And the truth is that Jaxson Dart was probably talking a little smack and being ultra competitive, the way that we want the starting quarterback to be for any of the 32 NFL teams in the NFL. And Greg Newsome, being a tough guy and a pro himself, defending, right, himself, the defense, his name, right, and what that means. And I think these are like those things that are like, they're super healthy for football teams. They're super healthy for a young football player to understand the proper boundaries to a degree of like what you can and can't get away with. And that's an art in itself too. And that's something that I think is going to be a really fun thing for Jaxson Dart to start to learn how to use, is like that veteran savviness of the mind games of, yeah, you know what? You don't have to throw the football at his face mask. You don't have to do some like physical action, but there's other ways, right, to get under the skin of defenders. First of all, just scoring the touchdown alone is a great first start to that, right? That's a great beginning of just, yeah, hey, we got in the end zone. Eat it, right? Deal with it. There's the other aspect now, too, of just, you know, him being able to create a presence, to create that type of competition and competitive stuff, right, without actually physically throwing a football at somebody. So to me, this is something that, like, yeah, hey, a scuffle broke out and people are saying, you know, oh my God, let's talk about Jaxson Dart's immaturity and, you know, what does Coach Harbaugh think about? You know, the truth is that, like, this is great, right? This is great. He sees a young football player that's got a ton of talent, that essentially has a franchise on his shoulders, especially here in the immediate future, right here, right now. And this was a great opportunity for him. I bet you the conversation really didn't last very long, other than just like, you know, Jaxson, you need to know better, right? It's different now, man. You are the franchise. You are the face. You're the voice of the franchise. Yeah, you know, we're not even good enough as a football team too to even have a 15-yard penalty. As my high school coach once said too, hey, you ain't worth 15 yards, okay? All right? So this is just a great opportunity for a head coach to have a good teaching moment for his star quarterback, for the star quarterback to learn a great and healthy lesson that he has learned multiple times, but now he has also learned that the new coach in town is just not going to buy into any of that crap. And it's great. It's great for him. It's great for Jaxson Dart. It's great for Coach Harbaugh. It's great for Greg Newsome. It's great for the whole team, for the team to see Harbaugh's approach and how he's treating this young football player, this young star, right? And a star among the league, but like maybe a star as far as just like his presence, not necessarily like his play being star worthy yet, right? So that's where I think it's just an awesome opportunity for everybody involved with this. And, you know, of Coach Harbaugh just being an old school guy that way, you know, and we've seen how the Harbaughs have really gone about just the respect of the game, the integrity of the game, and what they expect from their players. You know, that's just something that he's not going to tolerate. So when Jordan Raanan, you know, tweeted about this is just a great lesson, right, for the young football player. And I think too, like, other people, of course, will have their 2 cents about this, but in my mind, I thought that this was just a really, really healthy start to a training camp where it's going to be highly competitive. There's going to be a lot of demand, a lot of challenge. And I think for all parties, including Greg Newsome, Jaxson Dart, Harbaugh, the rest of the football team, for the whole team to start to feel the difference of that accountability for the star quarterback and also for the team across as a whole. So I think this is an awesome, awesome period, right, for the team. And really, that's the stuff that you expect in training camp. Like, I want things to be a little chippy, right? If I'm a head coach, there's a side of it like, yeah, you don't want to fight every play of practice, but yeah, like you do want people to feel challenged. You do want people uncomfortable. You do want people to kind of tap into that darker side of their competitive edge and to find where that line is. And then once you know where that line is, okay, now how can we extend that a little bit more to where it's not a detriment to the team, to where it's not a detriment of the individual? So I thought that was just a fantastic opportunity, right, for the football player, for the football team. A little quick reminder, this is the Sims Complete podcast brought to you by the Believe Sports Network. I'm your host, Matt Sims. We're sponsored by FanDuel and ZipRecruiter. And I'm riding solo today. We're still going solo right now. We'll have Big Phil back. All right, but, he's getting in his training camp. He's getting prepared for football season. But I appreciate, too, Lindsay bringing this attention to me, too, as far as just the ESPN analyst, Ben Solak, and his critique, right, or points about Jaxson Dart and his performance last year. I know Ben personally. I worked with him this past year at the Super Bowl. Ben is a very intelligent, fantastic football scout, knows the game well, knows good things and how to make some really great points about football players, what they bring to the table, all that kind of stuff. So I think that he's absolutely phenomenal with his evaluation, his breakdowns, and sometimes his viewpoints of the game are a little bit different than mine, but still I really do value his opinion tremendously and his skill set. And, for him, he made some points about Jaxson Dart, and just want to be clear about just making sure that I don't want to paraphrase this, but like according to Ben Solak, right, and this was something that was retweeted from the Big Blue Film Room, Dart is an extremely frustrating watch. He has very little consistency to his process as a thrower and a pocket manager. He is frequently disconnected from the ground, which affects the timing of his throws. And, when I hear these things, and then he also mentioned too, and delays his reaction to pressure. His lower body mechanics change willy-nilly, and he often looks like a kid alone on a basketball court, attempting a pretend buzzer beater, lurching to launch from odd angles for no apparent reason. And, I think there's a real reason for it. I think the reason is that, well, he's a rookie. And the NFL world is way more challenging than people give it credit for. I would like to do a little bit more research to see what Ben would say about his favorite son, Drake May, and how he was perceived after his rookie year, right? But still, just that being said, it's a part of the growth of the position. And it doesn't really matter, right, what it looked like last year, because there was a ton of things that were dysfunctional about this roster and about the team as a whole. And if there was anything, I would say that Jaxson Dart was emboldened by Dayball, by others, by the fan base, to just play a willy-nilly style of game, because guess what? We really weren't that good of a football team. So when you're in a situation like that, where your team really is just, let's just put it kindly, an average football team by NFL standards as far as depth, as far as just what they were doing offensively and defensively. Jaxson Dart was not playing clean, sharp football like he should have been maybe as a rookie. But that being said, the circumstances around him were extremely challenging. They were really not favored for him to be successful. And therefore, he played a style of football that was very, very risky. And because of that, he had a lot of phenomenal plays. He had a lot of bonehead plays. And again, I think that just goes and speaks to the fact of the dysfunction of the organization a year ago. The truth is that when I would watch the film of the New York Giants game, yeah, I could see exactly what Ben was discussing when watching Jaxson Dart. I could see the inconsistencies of his rhythm and his footwork at times. Maybe, hey, is he looking in the right spot at the right time? And a lot of my assessment was like, no, his footwork could be cleaner. His eye discipline could be better. But then there was also the aspect of it as I watched the film, I didn't think the offense was constructed great. I didn't think that there was enough weaponry around him to ease the function of being a quarterback. I didn't think that the offense could ever create real rhythm in any capacity, whether it was passing or running week after week after week. And that was something that, as the fans know who listen to the Sims Complete podcast consistently, I was banging for the table for there to be a clear-cut clarification on who is the offensive coordinator, who has control of the offense. Let's just call it and haul it with whoever that was. And I thought there was always just that weird gray area of like, 1 week it's this, then it's back to coach. Oh, then it's Kafka, then it's back to Dayball, then it's and it just got a little messy and muddy to me. And I feel like whenever you're in a position of power, right, like the quarterback position, if you are hearing too many thoughts or opinions from multiple sources at a similar time about what you're doing offensively, the install and all that, I think it makes it way more frustrating for a player to play fast, to play concise, to be aggressive, and to trust exactly what he sees and what he's doing. And all that being said, still as a rookie, would still think that there's going to be some blunders. There's still going to be some errors. That being said, Ben, there's a lot of truth to what he said. There's also, that's half of the truth because of just the fact the skill group really wasn't that great. Too many drops, Malik Neighbors being injured, the running back issues. As soon as I felt like any consistency in the running game, okay, Cam Skattebo is injured out for the year, right? So it's just like there was too many things that were going against Jaxson Dart and his talent. And it really kind of just comes down to just like whether or not you like the football player or not. And I think ultimately he was put in a position where he did some really fantastic things, playing backyard ball, playing buzzer beater ball, like Ben said, because honestly, it didn't matter at that point. Everybody knew that at the situation where, hey, day ball and that it was getting hot, right? It was getting hot for everybody. So what was going to happen? And of course, with all that going on, Jaxson Dart, what's he going to do? He's just going to keep playing rookie style football as all these other things are happening around him, because it's just very, very difficult and challenging to have a narrow focus at the quarterback position with so many things out of place. And that's what I think was the biggest thing. I think a lot of times too, like seeing what the defense was doing, defense getting gashed consistently over and over and over again. The feeling of a young quarterback being like, I need to do something to help this issue that we're seeing. Now, difference is in college, you can make a play or two, and it does really just change the game right away. And then it's carried over that much easier, throughout the game. In the NFL, you can make a great play and still get, your ass handed to you at the end of the fourth quarter. So that's where I think for like Ben, totally understand where his evaluation is coming from, totally get his viewpoint of it. That being said, Jaxson Dart was still the most entertaining Giants football player on the roster last year outside of Brian Burns and Cam Skattebo. And that is just the nature of the beast when you are playing high-level football with dysfunction around you. For Sims Complete, I was looking for people to help make Sims Complete better. And I needed people to help manage my schedule, to help me build out that schedule better for my students, for all that. ZipRecruiter absolutely took care of the job for me. So really thankful for ZipRecruiter, because ZipRecruiter has that new feature that shows you the most interested and qualified candidates first, so you meet the right people faster. ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology finds qualified candidates quickly. Candidates can tell you in their own words why they're interested in your job. That was hugely important for me. And that's why no wonder ZipRecruiter is the world's #1 rated hiring site based on G2. I have no idea what that means, but it's okay. I think it means something good. So try ZipRecruiter, meet great candidates who will get the extra step for your job. 4 to 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day, right? So try for free today at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, meet your match on ZipRecruiter.com. New York Jets quarterback right now, currently Geno Smith, is another great example of that. We've seen Geno Smith be a all-pro caliber football player when the surrounding cast, when the coaching staff and all that is good, is solid, is actually functional. Okay, now you put him in a Las Vegas Raiders uniform with all the stories that we heard about what were going on there, how dysfunctional that was. And yeah, that's where Geno looked like he was a below average quarterback at times that had above average talent, but below average efficiency and consistency. So for Dart, I think, of course, like with any young rookie, we saw some young rookies come onto the scene and absolutely just light up the NFL, and it was great. And they really haven't done anything since, and they've struggled to really recapture, some of that blissful, ignorant, new green feeling that they had to becoming like a consistent pro, right? Where everyone knows, hey, they're good and they're going to play good every single weekend. And I think that's where for the evaluation of Jaxson, it really doesn't mean anything. It's in the past. It's over now. And honestly, I bet your Harbaugh saw some of that film and was just like, you know what? It really doesn't matter because we're going to be different from what we do, right? We're going to approach the work differently. I love the think tank that they have in the offensive room as a whole. I love the fact that it seems like, as a whole, the defense, the team is going to be a little bit more disciplined, a little bit more tougher, right? With just that Harbaugh type of attitude. And I do think that Jaxson Dart is going to clean up a lot of the things that we're seeing on film. That being said, there were still a ton of positive things to be excited about for Jaxson Dart and his film. And I really don't get too concerned, because even there, if we compare Jaxson Dart and kind of other players that are in similar situations, so there was Jaxson Dart, and in this article, they're talking about the inconsistencies becoming more visible in his completion percentage over expectation, right? Jaxson Dart finished 23rd in that category, falling behind some quarterbacks, right, that people, don't consider elite passers, Tyler Shuck being one of them, Arizona Cardinals' Jacoby Brissett, and Geno Smith of the New York Jets last year of the Raiders, all finished ahead of Dart. Now, this is one of those things, though, too, where this stat is a little tricky. Yes, he was behind Jacoby Brissett and Geno Smith in the completion percentage over expectation. Well, because Jacoby Brissett has twice, right? Not twice, 10 times the amount of experience of how to navigate a pocket, of how to feel pressure, of how to hit completions more consistently. So he's just a pro, right? Same thing with Geno Smith and the dysfunction that they had with the Raiders. He's still a pro that has been through so many different lessons throughout his career. So that stat to me is kind of like, who cares? Yeah, of course he's behind Jacoby Brissett and Geno Smith. I understand. And I think in the big picture of it, I think people don't understand how good guys like Jacoby Brissett and Geno Smith are and how important it is to have a great surrounding cast around you to be successful at the position. Even with the Tyler Shuck with the New Orleans Saints, he has the head coach that has as much experience of teaching and playing the position of quarterback than just about anyone else in the NFL at the moment, other than a select handful of people. And that's where I think Tyler Shuck, he was able to catch fire late in the year because, man, the messenger is delivering the message to him every single time concisely and directly to him without this other gray area stuff going around. So that's where I think, too, just as fans, as people in the media, it really just kind of depends on what you think and how you feel about the player. I think sometimes it comes down to people just don't like Jaxson Dart because he's confident in himself, because he believes in himself, and he's just one of those competitors. So I really do think that he drives people to really love him or absolutely despise him. And, that's where I find it interesting because, again, like, people evaluate Drake May. And it's like, hey, Drake May year one and Drake May year two, there's a lot of big differences, no doubt, right? And a lot of it has to do with the fact of like, yeah, it was a more functional coaching staff. Yeah, they actually focused on making the offense better for him, making the offense about him and how to protect him, along with a super weak schedule last year too. But hey, it's still the NFL. It doesn't really matter. Every schedule is crazy. But just, it is interesting how you can create a very aggressive narrative against a football player depending on what you believe on and depending on what you think about that player and what really is being triggered when we have those discussions. Now, the good thing is overall, right, I do believe in the coaching staff. I am really curious to see what it looks like for Matt Nagy. I really want to see just like something that is very unique, that is very tailored to Jaxson Dart, to the identity of the New York Giants, and making sure that they get back to just doing what the New York Giants always do when they have a successful year, and that's being super physical, super strong at the line of scrimmage, disciplined, tough as hell on the defense and offensive lines, right? And really just willing their teams to victory through tough, great quarterback play like the other great quarterbacks did in the New York Giants history, whether it was Kerry Collins, Eli Manning, of course, that guy Phil Simms that we know. It was like, hey, there's a common factor. Like, they were all tough as hell. They were all real dudes, great leaders. And you know what? Jaxson Dart, I think, fits in that exact same category in his own unique way. So really excited for training camp. Love when it gets a little chippy. Love when it gets ugly. Love when the media starts to count stats at training camp because, like, even at training camp, you can't train and learn and experiment what you do well or don't do well, right? So it's a great time of the year. It's all BS. We don't know anything. And I think that's what's really exciting about all this. So, but hey, let's get to this is Sims Complete Podcast on the Bleed Source Network, brought to you by FanDuel. That's all we got today. The Sims Complete Podcast on the Bleed Sports Network, brought to you by FanDuel. Good little breakdown of Jaxson Dart and all that. I know I rambled a little bit, and honestly, I don't even want to talk about some of the other narratives in camp right now because they're just not interesting yet. We haven't even really gotten to like the nitty gritty of training camp yet. When the pads come on, when it gets a little bit more physical, when people get a little bit more pissed off because they've been out in the heat for so long. So it's a great time of the year. Looking forward to it. Really excited to see how this plays out. I'm Matt Sims. This is the Sims Complete Podcast on the Bleed Sport Network, brought to you by FanDuel. And we'll see you next time. Maybe with Phil Simms, maybe not, but we'll let you know. See ya.